treadmill abruptly stops or speed fluctuates as you're running on it, it's probably because of this. So a common problem people face with their treadmills is that as they start their machine within the first few seconds, like 1 or 2 seconds, maybe a few seconds, the treadmill belt will abruptly stop on them. Or as they're running and walking on the machine, they will face speed fluctuations. So the speed of the treadmill might run faster and then slower all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, or it just won't register correctly with the console, the numbers shown on the console. And 2 reasons for why that is happening is a bad motor controller board, the port where the speed sensor is plugged into, or, as I showed earlier, a bad speed sensor. So a lot of people, what they'll end up doing is they'll buy these speed sensors since they're cheap. They notice that they're cheap, so they just buy it immediately without diagnosing the issue in the machine. And then they come to find out that the speed sensor actually wasn't the problem. So then they end up buying more parts just to figure out what the issue is. So what I want to show you in this video is how to test to see if your speed sensor is actually functioning correctly, is working, is fine. That way you don't have to go out and buy these things because they are cheap. A lot of people just buy it immediately without testing theirs first. So I'm going to show you guys that, but I also want to talk about why the speed fluctuations might be happening within the machine. So I have the motor hood open here, and you can see the drive motor, incline motor, motor controller board, and usually the speed sensors are running this way along the motor hood and into this direction where the front roller is right here, because the speed sensor is going to read a magnet on the front roller. So let me try to go around and show you guys what that looks like. Okay, we're behind the treadmill where the drive motor is and the drive belt, and as you can see here, right there is the speed sensor held on by this clamp. So you'll notice that the speed sensor is pointing directly at the front roller because these front rollers have a magnet that is right on it. So as the front roller spins, that magnet spins on it and it passes in front of the speed sensor, so the speed sensor can register the speed and connect it to the console up above, or register it to the console up above. So that's how speed sensors function and work. They read a magnet that's on the front roller. Let me see if I can actually show you that magnet. I'm gonna have to get this light. So right about there. So you'll notice there's the front roller, there's the magnet on the front roller, and that's always spinning. So that's what the speed sensor is registering. Now, something that some people I think have noticed with older treadmills, I want to say, is that the position at which their speed sensor is in accordance to the magnet affects the fluctuation of the speed on the treadmill. So let's say your speed sensor, this one's about like 1/4 of an inch away from the magnet or the front roller. If this is further out, like further away from the magnet, that could affect the speed or even cause like errors on your console up above, and the treadmill just abruptly stops. So you want to make sure that the speed sensor is fairly close to the magnet, not too close, but like maybe 1/4 of an inch away. And you also want to make sure that your speed sensor is pretty straight pointing towards the magnet. Some speed sensors are horseshoe shaped, so they curve like this. And on one particular treadmill that I saw in a video, it actually affected the fluctuation, or it caused the speed fluctuations on the treadmill. So let's say this type of speed sensor, it's not horseshoe, but it's cylindrical shaped. Let's say this wasn't straight, but rather curved like this or like this. And if that's the case, it may not read correctly that magnet that passes in front of it, and that could be causing the speed issues. Or at least that's what it seems like some people may be going through. So it's important that you note that when you check your speed sensor, it's positioned correctly. It's not too far from the magnet. It's not positioned at an angle. It's held secure by this clamp. And on top of that, these speed sensors, you'll notice when you come in here, they usually run across the frame here. and around the drive motor, and then right there in front of the roller. And they're held secure by zip ties. Sometimes people might clip those, and now you got a loose wire in here and there are moving parts. And since there's moving parts and loose wires, that might affect the positioning of your speed sensor or even damage it. So you want to note that if you come in here and start diagnosing to see if your speed sensor is okay. If you're replacing your speed sensor, you want to make sure that when you cut those zip ties holding it secure across the frame, you re-zip tie it. You make sure it's secure. You make sure the clamp is secure. That way, that thing is not moving one bit and everything is safe, is where they need to be. So those are things to note. A question I want to actually ask you guys, because I actually did a test on 3 different treadmills with speed sensors, is I purposely positioned the speed sensor at a different angle. One of the speed sensors was a horseshoe, the other one was cylindrical. Actually, I believe it was this machine. And I noticed on these 3 machines that I tested on, they were different model machines. I believe some of them might have been Nordic Track. The speed did not fluctuate. So it's strange that on some treadmills it seems to be happening, but on others it doesn't. I even positioned the speed sensor really far away from the magnet and it didn't induce an error message on the console. So if any of you guys out there might know why that is the case, please leave us a comment down below, because we're still learning and growing as well. But these are things that we found out and decided to provide you with that information because it might be helpful with diagnosing your problem. But with that in mind, let's test the speed sensor. Let me show you how to test it with a multimeter. That way you can determine whether or not you have a good sensor or not. All right, so we have our multimeter, and what you want to do is set the multimeter to ohms. It's going to read OL. Then you're going to want to disconnect your speed sensor from the motor controller board. There might be hot glue on it, which you just got to peel off, but we disconnect that. And you'll notice on the speed sensor are 2 metal pieces right on top. That's where we're going to put our leads. So before we do that, first, you want to make sure that the magnet on your front roller is facing the speed sensor. So right now it's facing it. If it wasn't, I'd just move the wheel. So I'm going to move the wheel back. Now the magnet's facing the speed sensor. And then we will proceed to put our connectors or our leads on the connector. And what you'll notice on the multimeter is that you're going to get a reading of 0 point something ohms. It might be 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. But regardless, what that just means is that it's reading the magnet on the front roller. So now that we have done that and checked that it's reading the magnet, you want to move the magnet away from the speed sensor. So now the magnet is not facing the speed sensor. We are going to put our leads on the connector again. And what you'll notice, hopefully, is that the multimeter will not change. So the multimeter will still continue to read OL. And what that's just saying is that the speed sensor is not detecting the magnet. So that tells you that this speed sensor is good, there's nothing wrong with it, it's correctly reading, correctly functioning, and you don't need to replace it. Now, something I want to point out is that if, let's say, the magnet is not facing the speed sensor, which it currently isn't, and you put your leads on the connector and it is giving a reading of 0 point something ohms, that just means you probably have a crossed wire within here somewhere. So in that case, you would need to buy a new speed sensor and replace it. All right, so the speed sensor was in fact not the problem since we did a test on it. The next thing you're going to want to check is your motor controller board, and what you can do is just simply replace it with another one and test your machine to see if those issues still persist. And if they don't, then you know it was in fact your motor controller board. So thank you guys for watching. Just a quick reminder, we have a July giveaway towards the end of the month. We are going to pick one subscriber that subscribed to the YouTube channel to win our giveaway. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also leave us a like, and we'll see you guys in the next one.